From the notorious prison Alcatraz to the magical kingdom Disneyland, we will go over 5 haunted places in California. Number 1. Located in San Francisco Bay, California, Alcatraz was one of the most notorious prisons in the United States, known to have held America's most ruthless criminals like Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and many more. Many people would refer to Alcatraz as the end of the line, deeming it inescapable due to the strong water surrounding the island and high-level security. The prison is notorious for having very strict rules and harsh punishments. For the first few years of the prison being open, there was a rule that prisoners weren't allowed to talk except for very small durations of time during the day. If a prisoner were to break this rule, they would be sent to D Block. The D Block cells were dark cells in which prisoners would be locked in on average for 3 to 4 days straight. Any food given to them had to be passed through a slot in a door, and a bucket was used for a toilet. The harsh system at Alcatraz would drive prisoners insane. So insane that most prisoners who endured the prison will leave with multiple psychological problems. During construction of the prison, it was assumed that no prisoner would want to escape Alcatraz, and if anybody can make it out, it was highly likely that they'll either end up captured or drowned. In Alcatraz's history, a total of 36 prisoners attempted to escape. Out of these 36, 23 were caught, 6 were shot and killed, 2 drowned, and 5 are missing and presumed as dead, which include Frank Morris and the England brothers, who many people believe actually escaped. March 21st, 1963 was the day the prison would close its doors. The prison was too expensive to operate. Nothing could be taken to Alcatraz without use of a boat. The prison also needed fresh water, as well as a power plant built on the island. Alcatraz is one of the most haunted places in America. Several park staff members have reported cell doors mysteriously closing, screams, crashing sounds, and the feeling of being watched. Around 1976, there was a report from a night security guard that claimed to have heard eerie clanking sounds coming from inside the utility corridor. May 2nd, 1946, 3 inmates, Bernard Coy, Joseph Kretzer, and Marvin Hubbard, were shot up with bullets in that very same utility corridor after a failed escape attempt. Cell 14D, one of the whole cells in D Block, is believed to hold evil spirits. Many tourists that visit the prison claim to feel a coldness and sudden intense feeling while passing this cell. There's a story of an event that took place during the 1940s. This story involves a prisoner who was locked inside 14D, who screamed through the entire night that a creature with glowing eyes was trying to kill him. Many guards would joke about the cells being haunted by an evil spirit from the 1800s, so the guy's pleas of a ghostly figure attacking him would simply be ignored. The very next morning, guards found the convict strangled to death, along with the horrible expression etched on his face. Autopsy results revealed that the strangulation was not self-inflicted. Some people believe that he was strangled by a guard who was tired of his screaming. The murder was never solved, and the most haunting part of this story was what happened the day after. While conducting a head count, the guards had counted 1 too many prisoners. Some of the guards claimed to have seen a dead victim in line with the other inmates, but after noticing this, he was nowhere to be found. There are also paranormal encounters involving what visitors of the prison claim is the ghost of Al Capone. Al Capone was known to spend his free time in Alcatraz as a banjo player in the prison band, as he had fears of getting killed in the prison yard. Capone received special permission to use his recreation time to practice playing his banjo in the shower room. In recent years, a park ranger claimed he heard banjo music coming from the shower room, along with other visitors claiming to hear the sound from the walls. Number 2. Built in 1923, The Hollywood sign is perhaps the most famous sign in the world. The sign, which spelled Hollywoodland at the time, was not built to last. The sign was only used as a marketing ploy to encourage people to buy homes in a nearby area. Over the years, the Hollywood sign would be repaired and become a staple as a symbol of Hollywood. What if I told you that the sign we know and love had a much morbid side to it? Peg Entwistle, an actress who first starred in Hamlet, became a bona fide star and a member of the New York Theater Guild. Everything was all good until the Great Depression occurred. When this happened, the majority of the public could no longer afford the expensive theater tickets. Because of this, Entwistle's last shows completely tanked. While the Broadway scene was suffering because of the bad economy, the Hollywood scene, however, was booming. Because of this, Entwistle would catch a train to California, a place that gave her hope for fame and fortune. Unfortunately for Entwistle, when she arrived in Hollywood, that wasn't the case. Entwistle would quickly realize she was just one pretty face in a town full of beautiful women, as she had a very difficult time landing roles. She finally had a little bit of luck landing a small role in the movie 13 Women. Hoping this would be a stepping stone for her Hollywood career, she thought the movie could lead to other gigs. However, when the movie was released, critics savaged the film and the movie was quickly shelved. Entwistle's part in the movie was reduced to pretty much a cameo, a role that was much less than she anticipated. Entwistle's career was cut short following this film, and she found herself barely having enough fare to get back to New York. Friends Entwistle had did not want her around anymore, as people in Hollywood could not afford to be seen hanging with a nobody. Depressed and disappointed, Entwistle would tell her uncle that she was going to take a walk during one night in September of 1932. Entwistle had made her way to the Hollywoodland sign, where she would leave her coat and purse at the base of the maintenance ladder. Entwistle would then climb up the ladder, up to the letter H, and plunge to her death. The next day, a woman who was hiking would discover her coat and purse next to the maintenance ladder. Inside Entwistle's purse would be a suicide note. "I'm afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." The anonymous hiker would leave the coat and purse on the doorstep of the local police station. Unsure of who the suicide note belonged to, authorities would come across the body of Peggy Entwistle 2 days later. This led to a post in a newspaper about the body being found, along with the contents of the suicide letter. Not long after this, Peggy Entwistle's uncle, who at the time was frantically looking for her, contacted the police station, identifying the body. The crazy part about this story is that Entwistle received the letter in the mail 1 day before committing suicide. The letter was from Beverly Hills Playhouse, who offered a role to Entwistle for their next production. This role would involve the actor committing suicide in the final act of the play. In the years following her death, hikers and park rangers who roam the vicinity of the Hollywood sign have reported many strange occurrences. Multiple reports involve a woman dressed in 1930s era clothing who abruptly vanishes when approached. The woman is described as attractive, blonde, and very sad. There's also a gardenia scent described by parkgoers who constantly come across the smell. Could this be the ghost of Peggy Entwistle? In 1990, a couple was walking their dog along the Beach Canyon Trail nearby the Hollywood sign. During the walk, the dog began to act very strange and refused to keep walking the trail. They've never seen their dog behave like this and had seen no reason for him to act this way, until they saw a lady walking nearby. The lady was dressed in very old clothing and appeared to walk as if she was on drugs or perhaps drunk. The couple got out of her way and the lady vanished right before their eyes. They had no knowledge of Peggy Entwistle and the suicide that took place on the Hollywood sign. So if you ever see yourself close by the Hollywood sign, be careful because you might just find yourself with a phantom follower. Number 3. Located in Pasadena, California, the Colorado Street Bridge has been nicknamed Suicide Bridge due to the extraordinary amount of people committing suicide by jumping off of it. It is unknown exactly why more than 150 people have chosen this bridge to be their suicide destination, but there are many paranormal sightings on the bridge that shows there is something evil there. A bulk of these suicides took place during the Great Depression, which had a count of nearly 50 suicides between the years 1933 and 1937. The bridge first became famous in the 1921 Charlie Chaplin film called The Kid, as Chaplin's character saves a woman from jumping to her death on the bridge. There's an urban legend that one of the construction workers that was involved in the bridge's construction had accidentally fell off the bridge. The worker had fell in wet cement and was left to die as other workers were unable to remove his body. Legends say that he is the reason so many suicides have happened on the bridge, as his spirit calls on those who are at the lowest points of their life. Many people believe when his spirit is present, the streetlights turn blue on the bridge. One of the most famous cases occurred May 1st, 1937, which involves a 22-year-old mother, Myrtle Ward, and her 3-year-old daughter, Jean Picconin, who were abandoned by the father of the family. Apparently, the father had left the family due to his inability to provide for them. Hurt by this, Myrtle decided to commit suicide and wanted to bring her baby daughter Jean with her so they could be together in the afterlife. Myrtle went to the bridge and threw her baby off of it. Following this, Myrtle jumped off, plummeting to her death. Luckily, the baby Jean survived as her fall was slowed down by a nearby tree. Myrtle is rumored to haunt the bridge, still looking for her baby daughter. People that have experienced paranormal events on the bridge have claimed to hear strange sounds, crying, and screams. There are multiple reports of a man with wire-rimmed glasses roaming the bridge. There are also reports of a woman in a white robe that is seen jumping off the bridge and vanishing. Homeless people that have stayed under the bridge have reported sights and sounds of ghostly figures, including one ghost that says, "her fault," whenever someone runs under the bridge. Because of the constant suicides, there's an 8-foot-tall gate installed on both sides of the bridge to prevent further suicides. Even with this installment, the bridge still retains its nickname as the Suicide Bridge. Number 4. One of the most famous haunted hotels in the world is without a doubt the Hollywood Roosevelt. The Hollywood Roosevelt opened back in 1927 and would serve as a luxury hotel for the new stars of the Hollywood scene. The first strange encounter in the hotel took place in December 1985 when Alan Russell, the assistant to the general manager, was sweeping in the Blossom Room. The Blossom Room was where the first Academy Awards took place in 1929. While sweeping, Russell would notice an extremely cold spot in the room. He and the other employees present at the time couldn't find any reason why the specific part of the room was so cold. There were no air conditioners or drafts in the room. Psychics who have investigated the hotel believe there is a man in black clothing that haunts the room. On that very same day, another employee, Suzanne Leonard, was dusting a mirror in her manager's office. As she was dusting the mirror, Suzanne would see a sad blonde lady right behind her in the mirror's reflection. However, when she looked behind her, no one was there. Apparently, this same mirror was the same mirror that used to hang in Suite 1200, the same suite used by Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, a famous actress and model, was known to spend her happiest times at this hotel as her modeling career took off. As the years went on, Monroe was very unhappy as her career began to decline, and she would turn to sex, pills, and alcohol to help ease her mind. On August 5th, 1962, Monroe had tragically died as she overdosed on drugs, but there's a lot of speculation surrounding her death, as most people believe the overdose was not a suicide, but rather a setup. The haunted mirror still remains inside the hotel, and even to this day, random visitors still see the ghost of Marilyn Monroe in its reflection. Room 928 has been reported to be haunted, as a woman claimed a hand patted her on the shoulder while reading in bed. Thinking it was her husband, she turned to say goodnight, only to see her husband was still sleeping. Housekeepers have reported cold spots in the room that would brush past them, along with the feeling of being watched. The sounds of trumpets have also been heard in the hallway. The only actor who can be connected to this room is actor Montgomery Clift, known as one of the greatest actors of all time. Clift lived in a room for 3 months in 1952 while filming From Here to Eternity. Clift would always pace the room back and forth, practicing his lines and trumpet skills for the film, which can pretty much explain the brushing coldness in the room. A psychic, Peter James, decided to spend the night in this room. Already by the door, the psychic could feel angry vibes, and he decided to go to sleep around 2 a.m. When he woke up, James described a presence on top of him, holding him down. It was difficult for James to move, but as he took a deep breath, he was able to lift his arm as he fell back to sleep. James woke up a few hours later and saw a shadowy apparition of Clint Montgomery sitting in a chair in the corner of the room. The apparition just sat there, staring at him for approximately 30 minutes. The apparition then stood up and disappeared into the bathroom. A little girl is also known to haunt the lobby, as she wears a pink jacket and her hair tied up in a ponytail. The girl likes to sing, and she skips around the lobby, only to vanish when seen. Psychic Peter James encountered the small girl inside the academy room and discovered that the girl's name is Caroline and that she was looking for her mother. Peter also found her in the penthouse library crying, as she was worried something bad happened to her mother, and while comforting her, the girl disappeared. Another creepy case in this hotel involved 2 night shift security guards noticing what they thought was a person swimming in the pool on the security cameras. It was very late at night, and the pool was closed during that time. One of the guards went to go escort the person out of the pool, only to find that no one was there. The guard used his walkie-talkie to tell the other guard that the pool was secure as he waved his hand at the camera. The other guard watched in disbelief as the guard at the pool would wave his hand through the apparition's head. Surprisingly, the apparition got out of the pool and stood right next to the poolside guard. There are also frequent complaints from hotel visitors and staff about loud noises coming from vacant areas, typewriters starting in an empty office, lights turning off and on, and calls from vacant rooms. Employees have even complained about strange shadows on the 9th floor of the hotel, prompting them to refuse working on that floor. Number 5. Disneyland, located in Anaheim, California, is deemed the happiest place on earth. Has been around since July 17, 1955. Over 650 million people have walked through the gates of the magical kingdom, but unfortunately, not all have made it back out. Guests and cast members have reported many supernatural events inside Disneyland. When entering the park, if you look towards your left side, you can't help but notice the big red fire station there. Right on the 2nd floor of this fire station was Walt Disney's apartment. Walt Disney lived there while the park was being built and even while the park had opened. Whenever Walt was present at the park, he would light a lamp near the window of his apartment to let people know he was there. According to legends, soon after Walt Disney's death, a cleaning lady who was in the apartment had noticed the lamp was on. Noticing this, she went to turn it off, only for her to still see the lamp was still lit when she walked outside. Thinking maybe she somehow messed up turning it off, she went back inside and turned it back off. Right when she walked outside, the lamp was still lit. For the third time, she would go back up and turn it off, only this time she would stay in the room. Shockingly, the lamp lit right back up in front of her. Ever since this, nobody has attempted to turn the lamp off since. The lamp is lit around the clock to signify that Walt's spirit still lives on in the park. Cast members have reported footsteps and knocking noises coming from the fire station. Back in 1966, 19-year-old Thomas Cleveland tried to sneak into Disneyland during one of the grad night events. Cleveland had found a way into the park by going through one of its perimeter fences, which unfortunately led to a monorail track. A nearby security guard would spot Cleveland and warn him to get off the track, but Cleveland did not listen to him and instead tried to run away from him to avoid trouble. Just then, a monorail train struck Cleveland, dragging him 30 to 40 feet before stopping. Some cast members have reported sightings of a young man running along the monorail tracks at the back of the park, right where Cleveland died. Could this be Thomas Cleveland? Or maybe just another teenager trying to sneak in the park? Space Mountain is reportedly haunted by two different ghosts. One goes by Disco Debbie, a glowing green ghost inside of the ride. This ghost is rumored to be the spirit of a cast member who died of an aneurysm behind the popular ride. The ride is also said to be haunted by a man with reddish hair and a red face who goes by the name Mr. One Way. This ghost usually rides along the side of single riders, only to disappear once the ride is over. That ghost is rumored to belong to a man who died on the ride back in the 70s. At nighttime, the Pirates of the Caribbean operators can sometimes see an apparition riding in one of the boats through the video monitors. He seems to always be happy and cheerful. However, when they check the boat, there's no one there. The Haunted Mansion is the most haunted attraction in the park. There's a story of a woman who wanted to fulfill her son's wishes of spreading his ashes inside the Haunted Mansion ride, as he wanted to be one of the spirits roaming around in the attraction. She would ask the operators of the ride if it was okay to dump her son's ashes, and of course, they would decline. When the lady was about to exit the ride, she snuck back in and scattered her son's ashes, completely ignoring the cast members' refusal. Following this, a string of strange events happened that could not be explained. One writer would report to a cast member that they saw a little boy running around in the ballroom scene. After sending security, nobody was found. People have reported seeing a small boy standing alone and crying near the exit. There's also one picture of a boy looking back in the ride. The photo taker had no recollection of any small boy of his age being in front of him in line. Why would the kid look back on the ride in the first place? This photo is one of the spookiest taken on the ride. Surprisingly, there are many reports of family members spreading their loved ones' remains all over the park. Well, there was the 5 haunted places in California. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. I really would appreciate it if you gave the video a like, shared it with your friends, and comment if you would like to see more countdowns on this channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and thanks again for watching. Have a good one.